For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
Hello and welcome. You are on StratNews Global. I am Nitin Gokhale. Today, I am joined by Sri Lanka's Foreign Minister, Mr. GL Peiris, who is visiting India on a very crucial assignment, trying to revive and take the India-Sri Lanka friendship and relationship to the next level. He's just arrived in Delhi, and we are privileged to have the first interaction with him. Mr. Peiris, thank you very much for your time and welcome to this program.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, what brings you to New Delhi? What's your main objective here?
Well, this is an invitation by India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar. I should have come earlier, but my visit had to be postponed because of COVID-19. And I'm very happy to be here at this time. Our principal effort at this moment is to change the character of Sri Lanka's relationship with India. It is no longer transactional. It's not confined to this transaction or this field of activity. It covers pretty much the entire spectrum. And today there is a realization, certainly in my country, that the destiny of India and Sri Lanka is inextricably interwoven, largely by circumstances of geography, history, economics, and so on, but not only that, also as a matter of conscious choice and deliberate judgment. The key to the future, I think, is connectivity.
That's true.
Connectivity between Sri Lanka and India in so many different sectors.
Not just physical.
Not just physical, not at all. And it is a win-win situation. It is not something that is being done at the expense of one country for the benefit of the other country. But there is now a growing realization that it is good for both countries. Take a few examples. We are putting a lot of focus on the development of our ports and harbors.
That's right.
Sri Lanka being an island nation, the ocean is very important to us.
Correct.
And we are playing a key role in the Indian Ocean Rim Association, of which we are co-chair.
Yes.
We are chair of BIMSTEC,
Exactly.
handing over shortly to Thailand, and we are going to have a summit towards the end of March. We hope Sri Modi will be able to attend it physically.
Sure.
Both the President of Sri Lanka, His Excellency Gotabaya Rajapaksa, and I addressed the fifth session of the Indian Ocean Conference in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates.
Yes, the India Foundation conference.
That's right.
That's right.
So ocean-related activities are crucial, important to us.
Yeah.
And the development of our ports and harbors.
Yes.
Now, 80% of the activity is container shipping, and about 75% of it is India.
India, exactly. All are destined to India. They're all coming, the destination is India. Or going from India. Perhaps.
Exactly,
yeah.
Exactly. Then in Sri Lanka, we have a critical issue today about electricity, power.
Yes.
Now, if we can connect with the Indian electricity grid,
Sure.
That would be enormously beneficial because the Sri Lanka, the Ceylon Electricity Board is able to generate about 4,300 megawatts of power.
Sure.
But NTPC every day generates about 60,000.
It does,
right?
yes.
Then we have the capability to generate about 5,000 megawatts through wind power in the Mana area.
Yes.
So if we can bring about grid connectivity between our two countries,
Sure.
that is going to help a great deal. So connectivity in all these sectors, people-to-people connectivity, in my view, is the most important.
That is also one of your strengths, I think, India and Sri Lanka's relationship.
Very much so. And that derives from the legacy of Buddhism,
Exactly.
which without doubt was India's greatest gift to Sri Lanka. The gesture by Prime Minister Modi, who went personally to Kushinagar.
Yes, to receive the just the other day,
Just the other day to receive the inaugural flight from Sri Lanka, which brought 100 Buddhist monks here.
Yes.
The Honorable Namal Rajapaksa came on that flight. The Kapilavastu relics.
Yes, exactly.
So this is something that binds our two countries together. It is a very strong bond.
Exactly.
And one of the memoranda of understanding, which we will be signing very shortly, has to do with, again, an initiative of Prime Minister Sri Modi, the establishment of a fund of approximately 15 million US dollars for the refurbishment, improvement of pirivenas and temples.
Oh, okay.
Buddhist texts,
Yes.
all of that.
In Sri Lanka.
In Sri Lanka. So, people-to-people connectivity, pilgrims from Sri Lanka come here regularly, are well looked after.
Yes.
That is certainly one of the inherent strengths of the relationship. So whether one talks of tourism or manufacturing or ports and harbors or the power sector, oil, petroleum, gas, in all these different sectors, connectivity is very important. We are moving rapidly towards that. And it is my hope and expectation that my current visit will help to consolidate a relationship that is already very robust.
Glad to know that. The year 2020 has been quite stressful for Sri Lanka in that sense. And 2019-20, the India-Sri Lanka relationship was also kind of not very robust, if one can say, for a while. But 2 or 3 developments in the past 8-9 months seem to have sort of transformed the relationship. One is, of course, the Trinco oil tank farm deal, the Colombo West terminal deal for an Indian company. So what are the other areas of cooperation that you're looking for in terms of economic cooperation between the two countries?
Well, the oil tank farm, again, is mutually beneficial. For almost 17 years, these tanks were not used. 99 tanks.
Yes.
And that storage capacity would have been exceedingly useful at a time of fluctuating world market prices. So if we had the storage capacity, and if we were in a position to use it, it would have helped us a great deal. Now we have resolved that issue. For India, there is the storage capability. For Sri Lanka, the investment and energy security, which is vital for our industries. The West container terminal, the dredging work is expected to begin within the next 2-3 months. Adani Shipping is the principal player there.
Exactly.
And Adani Shipping is a key player in many of the Indian ports, which are connected with the previous activity I told you about.
Yes, the connectivity, ports and harbors.
So if we are to develop Colombo as a hub, a transshipment hub, a knowledge hub, digital hub, for all of these things, the link with India is of crucial importance. Other sectors, there are many. Tourism, for example, the Ramayana Trail.
Right.
We are thinking of developing about 52 potentially important tourism sites under the aegis of that program. And then also the manufacturing sector, investment. Take the pharmaceutical sector as an example.
Right.
We have established 3 investment zones in Sri Lanka. One in the deep south in Hambantota, one in Anuradhapura, and the third one in Kandy. Now, there's a great deal of scope for Indian investment into the pharmaceutical production sector. This means not only that Sri Lanka will be able to move towards self-sufficiency in some drugs which are needed in the country, but there's also the potential for export.
From Sri Lanka to other countries.
From Sri Lanka. So we will conserve foreign exchange, we will be able to cater the needs of our people. And Indian investment into that sector, the cement sector, food processing would be another example. Then the hospitality sector, there's already a considerable Indian investment. ICT is there.
Exactly.
The Taj hotels.
True.
So in all these sectors, there is abundant opportunity for Indian investment. The infrastructure is there. And that's something that we hope to make progress with.
I'm sure you will, of course, have a detailed talk on this during your visit. Turning to Sri Lanka's domestic situation, the financial stress it is going through right now, and the debate within the country about whether to go to the IMF or get help from friends like India, and of course you've gone to China. So that is also there. So what is the roadmap going ahead to come out of the current situation in Sri Lanka?
Yes, the current situation certainly involves some tension. Both foreign exchange and the fiscal situation, which is the product of a combination of circumstances. The main factor, I think, has been the collapse of tourism. For Sri Lanka, the tourist industry is worth approximately $5 billion US a year. Now, not only did that income diminish, but it virtually dried up.
Right.
So that had a devastating effect on the economy. Happily, we are now beginning to recover. There is now a trickle of tourists back into the country. The numbers are modest as of now, but they're increasing week by week.
That's a good sign.
That's definitely a good sign. The other factor which contributed to the present critical situation is a drastic reduction of the remittances that were coming in from Sri Lankans working abroad. That also was a major source of foreign exchange for us.
True.
But many of our people who were working abroad naturally wanted to come back home during the pandemic. Sri Lanka did everything possible to, we arranged flights, we arranged accommodation. We spoke to the countries in question. We arranged for vaccines to be given to them. So all of this meant that that income was also substantially diminished. Then exports did not suffer grievously, but there was, of course, a negative impact. So when you put all of this together, there you will find the causes of the present difficult situation.
Right.
India has been enormously helpful. The present package is of the value of approximately 1.9 billion US dollars.
Right.
There was the 1 billion line of credit for the purchase of essential food items, medicines. Then there was the $500 million facility for the purchase of oil.
Right. Which is essential for keeping everything going.
For keeping everything going, absolutely indispensable.
Right.
And as far as the balance of payment situation was concerned, again, Indian intervention was very useful because we had the 400 million SARC currency swap. And the deferment of payment, the Asian Clearing Union, that was about 515 million US dollars. And the total is at the threshold of about 1.9 billion.
As you mentioned, yes.
So that certainly helped us to tide over the present crisis. Of course, in the medium term, we have to take a close look at restructuring our debt. In January this year, we had to make a payment of 500 million US dollars sovereign bonds. In the middle of the year, in July, there is a much larger payment that is due. That's about 1.5 billion.
thrice the amount actually.
Thrice the amount. So some restructuring is unavoidable and has been started. In fact, there are discussions about it. International Monetary Fund is, of course, an option. We are members. We can go there at any time, but it is not the only option.
Okay.
So there are other possibilities that are being considered. There's nothing which is conclusively ruled out.
That's good to know. But what are those options for India, China, or some bilateral arrangements?
Yeah, bilateral arrangements, India, China. I recently made a visit to the Republic of Korea. The Republic of Korea is also prepared to enhance a degree of their assistance to us. Even Bangladesh,
yes, did some
$250 million US dollars. We are talking to other countries as well, the Kuwaiti fund, the Saudi fund, and so on. The IMF is, of course, there very much in the background, but there is no firm decision. We are talking to them with regard to technical assistance. There was recently a statement by the IMF that they are ready to help if we approach them, but that we have not done so yet. Of course, these problems are not going to last forever. The recovery of tourism is going to be a major factor in putting the economy back on track. And that's already happening.
And that's, as you mentioned, is already happening. Yes.
Yeah. And exports now, our export income during the COVID period was somewhat better than the income for the previous year.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. So, there have been problems in particular sectors, but overall, there has been an actual improvement in performance. So tourism, then the remittances are people who are working abroad have now begun to go back. So tourism, remittances, export income, all of that means that we will be able to find our way out of the woods sooner rather than later. So there's no need to panic. We have to handle the situation rationally, cerebrally, which is what we are doing. You know, Sri Lanka is resilient. I mean, we, as you know, Yes, I mean, you're familiar with these nuances of the Sri Lankan situation. So you know that we have the capacity to bounce back from situations in the past which were even more challenging than the current situation. So our people have that
determination,
grit, that determination. Yes. So I would say that the outlook is by no means grim.
No, that I can vouch for, and I think it's good to know that things are looking up in many sectors like that.
Yeah, but not in isolation. We value our friends, India in particular. We know that we don't have to handle these crises alone in isolation. And I must certainly say that India has been a source of great strength, the goodwill of India. India has always been there to help us when necessary. The Express Pearl disaster, India was the first to come on board to douse the flames.
Yes, the Indian Coast Guard was there.
Yes, and even COVID-19, the 500,000 vaccines which India sent, that was the first. So in all these situations, there is a spontaneity of response.
True.
Which is enormously strengthening.
Yeah, absolutely. Turning to some of the, I would say, wrinkles in the relationship, one is the fishermen's issue, which just doesn't go away for whatever reasons. How are you going to look at it? Can there be thinking on, say, joint zones or common zones for fishermen? Are some creative solutions being thought about?
That has been suggested. It has not, concrete details have not been worked out. But when you say wrinkles, I think that's exactly correct. I would agree with that. In a relationship that is so positive all around,
you
know, so strengthening and redeeming in every respect, this is the only constant irritant.
Exactly. For so many years now, decades perhaps.
So we've had to live with it for a long time. The Indian government has come up with several suggestions, one of which is to make a considerable investment in the training of fishermen in deep sea fishing methods. But there are cultural factors also involved. The fishermen from Kanyakumari, for example, different from so training is one. The other initiative has been the commencement of discussions between the cooperative societies of fishermen
Both sides.
on both sides. But unfortunately, that has not gone very far. And there, unfortunately, our approach is a little bit ad hoc because we have these situations arising from time to time. Fishermen and boats taken into custody, then we focus on those incidents, we try to resolve them. But there's repetition.
Yes.
So we have to break out of this cycle. This is one of the matters that would have to be seriously addressed by a joint working group. But there is a degree of seriousness on both sides. I know that the current Indian High Commissioner in Colombo, His Excellency Gokhale, went to Chennai, he went to Pondicherry to talk to fishermen to find a solution. To say that I would put that way up in the list of priorities. This is something that we need to do to keep the relationship on an even keel.
I can guess that because if that is resolved, I think then it's all positive, all win-win going forward.
Absolutely.
The other perennial question amongst commentators, analysts is always about the situation in the north and the political empowerment of the Tamils and, where are we as far as this government or the Sri Lankan government is concerned. So what is the situation currently? Is India asking you to do something more there or it's an old equation?
No, there is no pressure from India.
Okay.
This idea in some quarters that there is arm twisting by India is entirely wrong. But just a week ago, I spent 3 days in the northern province with my colleague, the Minister of Justice, the Honorable Ali Sabri.
Right.
We met a cross-section of people from schools, universities, the business sector, the northern branch of the Bar Association and so on. There is no hostility at the grassroots level. That is the most important factor which makes us believe that this is not by any means an intractable problem. What is important is to address the existential issues, agriculture, employment, and so on. As far as the constitutional arrangements are concerned, you're probably aware
That's right.
that there is an experts committee which is preparing a draft of a completely new constitution. It is headed by one of Sri Lanka's best-known President's Council, Mr. Romesh De Silva, and consists of professors of law, other eminent professionals, and so on. They are now reaching the end of their work. And they have indicated to us that within the next 2 or 3 months, they will submit their report to the government. Then we will go through the parliamentary process.
Sure.
A committee of parliament on which all political parties in parliament will be accommodated. So this is a comprehensive new constitution for the country, not a tinkering exercise.
So, and you think that will take care of perceived and real grievances, of the minority Tamils and others?
Well, that will be one of the matters addressed. But what history has told us very clearly with regard to that issue is that any durable solution will have to be based upon consensus.
That's true.
Any attempt to thrust something down the throats of people, decisions made above, and that will not work. But one other point I would like to make is this. There is talk about devolution and so on. But even the funds that were allocated to the Northern Provincial Council were not fully utilized.
Oh, so the capacity to absorb funds is not there, or what is the problem?
That is a very real problem, the institutional capability. So I'm not for a moment denigrating the importance of the discussion about devolutionary arrangements, which have to be agreed upon.
Right.
But quite apart from that, even looking at the powers that are now available to the provincial councils in terms of the 13th Amendment, there has been a difficulty of using those powers for the benefit of the people in those areas because of inherent institutional deficiencies and shortcomings. Those have to be addressed.
Right. So one of the concerns in either the establishment or especially in the commentary or the commentators is always the Sri Lanka-China relationship and how does it impinge upon India-Sri Lanka relationship, or the security concerns that India and other countries have about China's large presence in Sri Lanka. How do you address that? I mean, how do you overcome that, I won't call it suspicion, but reservations about huge Chinese presence? And
no, it doesn't impinge on the Indian relationship at all. There is, of course, the Belt and Road Initiative, of which Sri Lanka is an integral part. We are certainly appreciative of the substantial assistance that we have received from the People's Republic of China, mainly in respect of the development of our infrastructure, highways, railroad systems, and so on. But then India has also helped in those areas. No? Sri Lanka has always made it very clear that there is no question of Sri Lankan territory or Sri Lankan territorial waters being used in any manner whatsoever to the detriment of any other friendly country. And our relationship with India is a very special relationship.
Like you've mentioned all through the interview.
Absolutely. It is special, it is sui generis.
Yes.
Right? And no other factor will detract from it. And everything that has happened, particularly in the recent past, I would say today the relationship is at a new level, at the level of a strategic partnership.
Right. Yes.
And that is certainly not going to be in any way adversely affected by any other consideration. Although we respect China, we are grateful to China for the goodwill, the friendship that they have consistently shown us, but certainly not at the expense of India. And any inhibitions or apprehensions on that score, I can assure you, are entirely unfounded.
That's good to know, because there is a very crucial defense or maritime security cooperation between India, Sri Lanka, Maldives, the Colombo Conclave, which is set to be expanded. What would you say about that particular arrangement as an addendum to the question that I posed as the last question?
No, I would say that is useful in terms of the security of the region. Other matters also which are of immediate concern to us from an economic standpoint, the conservation of our fisheries resources, preventing overexploitation, climate change, global warming, all of that. Then the gathering and the sharing of intelligence information. Also the problem of narcotics. That is now beginning to assume somewhat serious proportions.
Right.
Very large quantities of heroin, ice, things like this have been detected. And this is something that is causing us concern. So that tripartite relationship, Sri Lanka, India, the Maldives, that is useful. But none of this is intended to pose a threat to any other country.
Which is, again, important to clarify.
It's very important to clarify. It's not a question of rivalry or competition, but more and more there is a realization that a common effort is necessary. I mean, after all, these are global issues. Climate change, global warming. This came out very clearly at the COP26 event in Glasgow.
Yes.
On the sidelines of which I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Jaishankar. So these are now challenges confronting the whole of humanity. And there is a growing realization that if we are to survive and emerge unscathed from this crisis, then there has to be a concerted common effort to which we all contribute without distinction.
Mr. Peiris, thank you very much for being so candid and so insightful. I wish you all the success in your trip here.
Thank you.
And I hope the relationship goes to the next level, the higher level, very soon between India and Sri Lanka.
I'm sure it will. We are determined to make it happen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.